Right, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit. It's the first time I've used this light, and it's not the best angle. We'll go through the Breakdown Bible. I'll try and keep track of comments on here, but it's going to be difficult. Actually, that's annoying. Right, so we'll start with the S-plan system. So I've got power to there. I've already wired the switch fuse spur in. So if we were going to check for power, it's difficult. One-handed. Put one probe in the earth. So we're getting 240. Check that goes off. So we definitely don't want to be electrocuted tonight. Right, so that's all dead. That's good. I'll leave that in there for now. Just pop the fuse, safe isolation and all that. If I could do it one-handed. There you go, so that's popped. Right. So I've set the board up exactly how it is in the Breakdown Bible. So if we just concentrate on the wiring sequence, programmer, so it starts there, and then we got, it says cylinder stat / room stat, so you can go down cylinder stat, then to your zone valve, and then it fires the boiler, and then the same when you want heating, up to your room stat, through your valve, well, it goes to your 10-way, but then it fires the boiler. So it's literally just as simple as that. You're just starting in one place, going to the boiler, and you just add in temperature controls. So that's your timer control, temperature, opens a valve, fires the boiler. So let's just undo that. So it's the first time using one of these Wagos as well. So I've kind of just opted for these. So I've got live in there, neutral and earth. I've already crimped all these as well. So the first thing that we need to do is give that programmer power. So this is just switch live only on this diagram. But we've got all the cables. So we need live, neutral, earth over to the programmer. So let me see if I can set this up to kind of do this around me. Right, that might work. Right, so on the back of here, we've got live, neutral, earth to the left. So we know we need permanent live, neutral, earth. So the easiest thing to do, let's get rid of that, make some space, is we've got live, neutral, earth, and then we just wire live to live. This is the first time using this board as well. I haven't actually used it yet. It was only made the other day. So fingers crossed everything works. I gave the boiler permanent power / light bulb. So if anybody wants to know how to like strip the cable and put these crimps on, or ferrules as electricians call them, just drop it in the comments. And I think there is one cable I haven't stripped yet, so I can go through that, because I kind of self-taught with that. Nobody was like, oh, that's how you do it. Right, so live, neutral, earth, that gives the the programmer just power. The lights come on, and then back over to the 10-way, where I'm going to post this through. So let's pop it up in here. So if you can imagine, all this would be in different rooms. So it's as simple as live to live, neutral to neutral, wrong one, and then earth to earth. Should have put a bit more slack on that cable, but never mind. Right, so now we know if we were to turn that on, we'll have power to that. So now we got power. So it doesn't matter what we select, nothing else is wired up, but we've got power to it. So that's all live, neutral and earth does. So when we say permanent live, neutral earth, that's what it needs just to light up. So flick that back off again, pop the fuse back out. So the next thing we need to do, oh, that's easier, we can use this. So if we do heating first, ignore that. We go to heating, so room stat. We're going to go central heating on, which is 4. So we're going to get, I'm going to take a 3 core. I've got one prepped back here. So let's get that a bit closer. Colour should we use for heating? Should we use grey, just to make it easier? I just thought, so this is our heating on. So we've given the programmer power. Now we need to direct it somewhere. When you want heating, you turn the heating on, and all it does is send power across and then down that way. So this goes directly to your room stat. However, we don't live in an ideal world, so it needs to go to the 10-way first. So let me just find that behind. Pop that through into here. So what colour did we say was heating on? Grey. So I'm going to opt for that. So grey into there. And then we need to go to our room stat. So our room stat's over here. Pop that off. This light's nearly given up on life. Right, tighten that up. Straighten that. Right, I don't know if you can see that. We've got earth, 2, 3, and then 1's over here. So let's have a look at the back. So we're coming in on 1. So we go from that grey cable to 1, which is our switch live. And then when we call for heating, it will go back off 3. And that's how we go in and out. But Honeywell want you to put a neutral in 2 and an earth in earth. So let's get that wired in. Like I said, if I don't kill the light first. Right, so that's there. So I've got a 5 core here. I've put plenty of slack on it just to make it a bit easier. Let me see if I can lift that up a bit. That's better. Right, I'm trying to do it so that I can wire it but not get in people's way. On site it's quite tricky because it's not normally right in front of you. It can be in all kinds of spaces, as you know. So earth to earth, neutral, which is blue, goes in 2. And we've got some more. So to make it easier, I'm going to put grey in 1 so we can keep our switch lives the same colour, just to make it easier to understand. So we've gone from the programmer in grey to the 10-way, then we're going from the 10-way to to the room stat. And then you can actually see on here, on 1 and 3, there's not continuity. And then when you call in, it opens. So your voltage sits to here when you want heating. Turn that up, and then it passes down there and heads off to the valve, which we'll go through in a minute. I put 5 core into this, but I didn't need it, so let's not confuse things and use brown. Right, brown. The important thing to remember is, in this instance, these colours don't really mean anything. They could be literally any colour, apart from the earth and the neutral. But when we've got like the greys and the browns and the blacks, they don't actually represent anything until you get to the 3-port valve, then it 2-port valve, and then it means something. But for now, we're just doing heating. So put that cable out of the way. I don't want to cut it off because I've already crimped it. So we've got grey. So back down to this. So now we've come out of the room stat once we've made, and then I've actually put that on brown. So now we've got to go brown to the zone valve in here. We need to connect it up in there first. There's me thinking where the cable's at. I haven't put it through yet. Right, it's going to start getting a little bit in depth now, so we'll pop that through here. So hopefully this is making sense to people. So that's our grey coming from the programmer. That's our grey going in to the room stat. And then we said it was coming back on brown. So when you want heating and your room stat's up, you get 240 coming back on brown. And then we know our neutral goes into our neutral, our earth goes into our earth, and there's that random black cable that I didn't need, which actually is going to probably confuse people, so let's just get rid of it. And the same up here, I'll just cut it off. Right, that's that gone. So now we've got the brown for the zone valve. So we get the heating zone valve. Right, it's going to be the top one. So we put a brown in there. And then it's really easy to start getting rid of cables, because our neutral goes in the neutral, earth goes in the earth, like that. Our grey on here, switch live, permanent live. So on 2-port valves, the grey is always permanent live, and we know that our permanent live is this section here, which came in from the switch view spur. So that goes like that, and then our orange, that goes down to the boiler. So power from the programmer, through your cylinder stat, through your zone valve, back to your boiler. So because the boiler is just represented by a light bulb, I pre-wired it because we're not in science class at school. We don't need to learn to do that. It's not that one. Oh, it is that one. So what I'll do, again, we've got our neutrals and we've got our earths. Neutral, earth, and then I'll put it over in this block. So make it easier, we've got orange. And this is our boiler feed. Swap it around. So that's our LR back to the boiler. And then we're going to put our orange from our heating in there like that. Might as well close that one. Those two aren't used yet. So let's plug that in. Like that. Just put those out of the way. Let's give heating a try then. It's a moment of truth. So we turn that on. Nothing's lit up. That's annoying. So let's just turn it off first. Let's test. So we're getting no voltage. Now we're getting 240. Getting nothing on 3 until we want heating. Then our zone valve lights up. And the bulb comes on. So we've completed half of an S-plan system already in like 20 minutes. I'd literally just followed the Breakdown Bible, so it'll be the same principle again for hot water. Just to there we go. I'll flip that off. So now we've just got the hot water side. So we're going to go from the programmer to the cylinder start, through the zone valve, back over there to that. Is that a lot easier than people thought it was going to be? Or do people still think that it's massively complicated? Pop that off. So don't forget, with the Breakdown Bible, it's all just in and out, because every control you use is slightly different. So, you know, I can't start putting numbers on all of these because they're not going to be the same for everything. So that's why it's just the principle. You learn the sequence and then you can use each individual one and you should be able to meet in the middle. So that's turned off. We're happy that's turned off. So the next one is going to be, I think, let's use black because we haven't used black yet. Now we want hot water on. So we know hot water on is blurry. Hot water on is number 3. So let's wire in black to number 3. And actually, for an S-plan system, all you need is hot water on and heating on. The hot water off is just for Y plans. So we've actually finished in here now. So we can pop that back on. Don't need to worry about that again. And we're going to come over here because we've got, we said black, didn't we, for hot water on. It's starting to get a bit messy now. Let's pop that around there to get it out of the way. So hot water on, goes in the brown, and then so again we didn't, did I say brown or did I say black? I said black, confused myself. Right, so black, so that needs to go to the cylinder stat. So if I pop this in here, so we use blue, which is actually a switch live now. So what we would need to do is put some tape on it or put sleeving on it. I can't see that from here. Because you don't want people mistaking it for a neutral. So hot water on from the programmer, goes down to your cylinder stat, which is all the way over here. Just going to pop this off. Obviously it's screwed on. Bear with me. Turns out the hardest thing is taking this off. Wow. Right. So it's a little bit difficult to see, but it does say, so you've got common on the left, and then it goes back on 1. Number 2 isn't used on an S-plan system because that means hot water off or hot water satisfied, basically. So I've got to find that cable that I've just put through there. So blue, hot water on, from the programmer into there, and then we're going to go back on brown once it's satisfied. So again, if you're not sure, you can always do the checks. So no continuity. Does that make sense for everybody? Like I said, it didn't really work how I thought it would. I thought I could kind of answer questions as I was going, but if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments, and I'll have to get back to them after. This won't be like a one-time thing. Like if enough people want me to do another one, or I can do faults on this. Might do some faults after, depending on what the time is. We can go from there. Right, so we're coming in. We're not going down there until we want heat. When we want heat, it sends then power to the zone valve. So we want brown on the zone valve, which works out well because I've come off brown. Brown over here. So we're going to put brown in that one. Like that. That brown's annoying. It's misleading. Go away. So that's that. And then we're going to get our hot water zone valve. Just move that. So grey in grey. That blue's going to have to just hide in there with that, because it turns out I probably didn't calculate the right number of cables, but never mind. I'll work it out, that's fine. I have noticed that Wagos don't like more than one cable in there, which is a little bit annoying. Might have to just Wago them together in a minute somewhere else. That's it. Well, I made that massively annoying. Right, so we come brown off the cylinder stat with the voltage once we want heat, well, hot water, to brown, and then that goes back to our LR. So the oranges go together. S-plan systems can be made quite simple. The greys go together, the blues are neutral, the earth's the earth, the oranges go together, and then the browns are the cools coming from your controls. So now that that's done, we're going to plug it in. So power on. There's no earth down here, so I'll have to use this one up here. So I don't know if you guys can see that, probably not. Right, so no power on common. Hot water on. Now we're getting 240. We're getting nothing going back. Till we call for heat. And then I'll just turn that around so you can see the bulb kick in anytime today. There you go. So we've literally completed the circuit. Flick that off. There you go. You can hear the motorised valve shut. Heating on. On. There we go. That symbolises the boiler to fire. So it's difficult to do faults on here because everything's actually working how it should. They're all pretty much new components. The EPH valves were brand new, as be the Honeywell ones. So it is difficult to replicate, you know, faults on these. I have got some faulty components, that I will put into this, but tonight was mostly just showing people how it's wired up, and you know, just basically trying to clear that up for people, make it a bit more simple. I mean, I keep saying about the Breakdown Bible, but it's because it's something that I wanted to understand. So when I started the wiring side, so a wiring diagram looks like this, and that's made simple. That comes with the Wago wiring box, which is brilliant. Like, I can't fault it, it's great. But when you're starting out, or even now, to be fair, you have to trace it back. And if you're not quite sure, I mean, which one looks simpler out of those two? That or that? And I've just proven, because I was over there, that was over there, I can't see that far. These glasses aren't for aesthetic reasons. I literally am blind. I couldn't read that from there. So I managed to do it based on this. So my method of, if you learn the sequences, then you'll be able to apply that to anything. If you wanted to add another control, so here we've got hot water heating. If you were to go to a house and a customer wanted another heating zone, all you've got to do is basically replicate that. So I would add a single channel programmer next to that. I would give it live neutral earth. You'd have a central heating on coming off, which would be on 4 again if you went for Honeywell. You'd have another separate room stat. You'd have another separate zone valve, and then your orange would go back to fire the boiler on LR, and your grey would sit in permanent live. It's literally as simple as that. You can add, or you can take away, or, you know, you can modify the system to suit you. I mean, that looks a little bit of a rat's nest, but I do quite rate these Wago boxes. That does look quite good. I'm definitely going to turn that off before I bolt myself and stick my finger somewhere I shouldn't. But I mean, you know, and these EPH valves, it's the first time I've ever used them, and you know, I'm definitely going to start using them. They're brilliant. It's great. So I will come back and put some faulty components on the board, you know, and then we can do some fault finding, because the only way I can add faults to this really is with faulty components or wired it wrong, but then that's not really going to help anybody, because it's quite rare really to go to a system unless it's a new build that's wired wrong. Does anyone want me to go for anything before I start unwiring it? Does anyone want to go through how you like strip cable, crimp cable, anything like that? Just drop it in the comments. I can actually see the comments now. So I've literally got another 10 or 15 minutes if anyone wants to go for anything. How do I get the Breakdown Bible? So I'll post a link in the chat. It'll take you straight to the shop, and you'll be able to order one on there. You can get the PDF. If you order the PDF, do the PDF shipping. If you want the actual folder, then make sure you pay for the folder shipping, Royal Mail Post. Otherwise, you'll just get a picture of it for email. I don't want this to be a selling Breakdown Bible kind of thing, but I just wanted to highlight that it just makes it like a lot easier to go through everything. So like, for example, basic checks, the quick checks that you can do when you turn up at an S-Plan system for any fault. Then obviously there's no faults on this system, so we'll fire that up. No demand. I don't know if you can see that, it keeps reflecting. So on no demand, we want 240 on grey and nothing on brown, nothing on orange. So we know that this system is wired correctly and it works because obviously we've just done it. But if we just turned up at this system and the customer was saying, I don't know, the heating wasn't working, we'd need to check that it was electrically sound. So I don't know if I can, I'll use that up there. So do we want 240 on grey? We're getting 240 on grey. And then we're going to want nothing on brown. So which was our brown for our heating, this one, that goes to the zone valve. So no voltage. And then nothing on orange, which is sound. We're getting nothing on orange. So we know with no demand on, that's electrically sound. Heating on only, we'd want 240 on grey, 240 on brown, 240 on orange. That on, that turned up. Oh, would help if I plugged it in. Just put that little one. Can you watch it all back later? I hope so. If for some reason it doesn't work, I will do another video anyway, and then I can edit it and you know, we can work it like that, don't worry. Won't be gone forever. I might do a couple of these. I know some people wanted it on Instagram, like the live on Instagram. Some people wanted the live on TikTok and some people wanted it on YouTube. I opted on YouTube because there was more people that wanted it, so it just made sense. So we wanted 240 on brown, 240 on grey, 240 on orange. So that's our basic checks, and then it would be the same with that. So no demand, heating on, hot water on. So we can check that that was electrically sound. Just trying to think how I could rig it up with a fault. So I mean, the only way I could do it is let me flip that off. Right, here's a fault. So we turn it to this one. Customer says my heating doesn't work. Hot water's fine, S-plan system. We turn that on. We turn the room start up. Light bulb sat doing nothing. So if we looked at the sequences, the switch lives only, we know that it leaves the programmer, it goes through the room start, goes through the zone valve, and it goes to the boiler. So somewhere along there, we've got a fault. So loads of people will say, be the zone valve. It's a brand new zone valve. I can't make that fault. So we go to the 10-way, we do our basic checks, heating on only. We want 240 on grey, 240 on brown, 240 on orange. We find that. That's better. Right. Let's shut that. Heating on only, 240 on everything. 240 on grey, nothing on orange, nothing on brown. So we're not getting 240 on orange and brown. We know orange is right at the end, but we're not getting 240 on brown coming to the zone valve. So we're going to go one step back and go to the cylinder stat. So to prove the program is okay, because we'd have to whip that off, and then when you whip it off, it wouldn't send power down anyway. So rather than disrupting that, we can undo that screw, pop that off. We can get to the first one and see if we've got power going into the room stat. We have got power going into the room stat. And then we would check for power there, which we are getting power, but I just pulled the cable out to replicate it. So if that was wired in and you had power coming in but it wasn't going out, it'd be the room stat at fault. But I've just replicated a faulty room stat by pulling the cable out, so it doesn't send it down here. Does that make sense to everybody? I've tried to just, you know, there is another fault I can do actually. I've got an idea. If you guys just check out the S-band wiring diagram for a minute, I'll have a quick look over here. I think I can do one more fault with stuff that actually works, which wouldn't. Right. Let's see if this fault works. If I've done this right. So, turn up to this one. Customer says the heating doesn't work unless my hot water's on. We know it's an S-plan system, that's not right. Twin channel program is perfectly capable of doing that. So we're going to put the heating on, turn the room stat up. Well, we've got power there, but it's not doing anything. I heard it made the switch. That's strange. So, but you power that up, and it's come on. So now I can control the heating and the boiler just off the cylinder stat. But yeah, it'll go off on that. And it'll take a while to come back on for that. Pop that over there. So we've got, let's put our heating on first. heating on. We got 240 on one, so we know that's working fine. Programmer is good. We're getting power from the programmer to the room stat. Turn it up. Brilliant. Room stat works. Lights on the zone valve. That's good. Let's just check in here. We know this brown cable comes back, but we'll check it anyway. So that comes from our zone valve, from our room stat to our zone valve, goes up through the zone valve, and then it goes into there. So we're not getting 240 on orange. I'll just leave that for a minute or so. Does anyone know how that would happen? You can get 240 on brown, but it's not passing through and going down orange to fire the boiler, but it's a brand new room stat, brand new zone valve. Because obviously the first thing you'd think is change the zone valve, but we know it's new. So does anybody know how or why this would work? Well, wouldn't work, excuse the pun. I'll literally leave it for 30 seconds, pop it in the comments. I can actually read the comments for a minute. Have some suggestions, and then I'll go through it. I've literally got 2 more minutes. Did nobody want to have a go? I hope you can watch the video later, mate. I'll try and get it saved. Yeah, spot on. You need 240 on grey to make the switch. So your 240 on your brown motors the valve open to allow the water through, and it makes the micro switch, and then the micro switch sends it from the grey, which is your permanent live, down the orange to fire the boiler. So all I've done is, to make it come on with the hot water, I just literally popped the grey for the heating valve, which is your permanent grey, permanent live. I literally just popped it in the feed for the hot water so that it got its power through there. Well done. This is the time to ask questions, have a go, stuff like that. No one will judge anyone for getting it wrong. And I definitely don't know everything, but I built a board to help me learn. Not this board, I built another board before, especially on wide plans. Next time I do one on a wide plan system as well. They're a little bit more in depth. Signed into the wrong account. It's all good, mate, don't worry. An extra follower, isn't it? And subscriber, hope so. Yeah, before I go, does anyone else want to go for anything? Next time I do the S-plan, I'll bang in some faulty components, and then we can do some fault finding as well. Do people find the wire in it from start to finish helpful? Was that good? Is that something that people want to see again or not? It's the first time I've ever done a live like this, so feedback is helpful. You know, if people don't rate it, then I won't do it again. It's simple. So yeah, feedback's good. Got the joy of putting it all back together now. I'll probably leave it wide for a little bit though, just to make it easier. Everybody happy with like cutting and crimping cables? I personally wouldn't tidy up a rat's nest and put it in a Wago box, purely because, as you can see here, I did struggle a little bit with getting some of the cables in. Like you're limited to the amount you can put in. When you've got the old-fashioned 10 ways, you can probably stick 542 cables all into one point and it's sound, whereas this, it's really temperamental. I mean, it looks nice. Even when it looks like Spider-Man's just had his birthday around here, like it still looks okay. But yeah, for the price, like they're good, but they're quite expensive for what they are, you know. It depends how much time you've got as well, and how much cable's coming through the wall. We had a job where the cable was really limited coming through the wall, and it was almost like trying to pull the cable to get it in the terminals, and it doesn't always work. And sometimes customers don't really want to pay for it, do they? You add another 50, 60, 70 quid onto a job just to neaten up their cables. That's probably a meal out for them. Like, they ain't, you know, they're not going to go and tell all their friends that their cables are nice and neat in the cupboard. So, you know, it just depends. The best thing I find with wiring is just literally do it, have a go. With the sequences, if you get your head around the sequences, you know, you'll be able to put that into the real world and you'll be fine. You can pretty much go to a job that is wired wrong and going through the simple steps. Like this, it gives you everything on one page and it's very much like, wow, there's a lot going on there. But if you make it simple and just do one at a time, from there to there, to there, to there, there, easy. Like the sequence, and then once you know the sequence, you'll know how to fault find. Like we did those couple of faults, you're just tracing it back. You find out where on the sequence that fault, well, where it broke down basically. It's not getting from there to there, where's it stopping? And then that's your faulty component. If you were getting power not there but there, like, you know, you can just do it like that. What's a W plan all about? Maybe some nests and hives. So I do the hive. I wire in the hive quite a lot. I like the hive. I don't personally like the nest. I've got the nest at home, only because the people who put my gas in, because I had to have gas put off the road, they gave it me for free when I registered the meter. That's the only reason I've got it, and I personally don't like it. It keeps self-learning, but it obviously doesn't learn very well because it never gives me what I want. So it brings the heating on all the time, not when I want it on. So I find the hive better. But so this is something that people get really shocked about. A hive receiver will go in exactly the same place as that. A hive receiver, you need live, neutral, earth, and then you need a power to it and a power out. Or if you've got one on an S plan, you'll have hot water on, hot water off. I'm pretty sure it's even the same, it's the same terminals. And it's the same thing. If obviously with the hive, it's a wireless stat. So all I would do is, if you can access that in the 10-way, I would just take it out the 10-way. If you couldn't, I would just pop that off. I'd Wago those two together, pop it back in the wall, plaster over it, or put the new hive rheostat in its place so it's still accessible, and that's it. People think that, you know, the smart controls are so like difficult to understand or technical. They're not. They're quite straightforward. The receiver is just a programmer. It's just another starting point. So change that to receiver of a hive and you've got the sequence. Obviously the cylinder stat is still hardwired on the hive, but the room stat is wireless. So you just, if it was wireless, you just skip that and it goes straight to your zone valve, fires a boiler. Does that help? Any other questions before I cut this off? It's difficult to do other folders on boilers that I don't work on all the time. The other Breakdown Bible was designed with like tips and sequences and fault finding flowcharts that I've physically gone through myself. and tried and tested, and I try everything in the folder at least a couple of times before I even put it out. So it's you know, it's difficult for me to then try and make something on a boiler that I don't necessarily work on all the time. So hopefully, you know, I'll be able to do something. But it's because each boiler is so different and they all do different things. They all have good spots, weak spots. It's difficult to make like a generic one. I'd love to be able to, but it is quite difficult. But I will try. If I can manage to teach, you know, a handful of people to be confident in wiring and stuff through these videos, then I'll keep doing them, because that's the aim. When I first started the wiring side a couple of years ago, there was nowhere to learn it, really. I struggled, which is why I designed that, because that is exactly what I wanted when I was trying to learn, not diagrams like this. These diagrams didn't help me at all. There's a wire plan one that we can go through. So here you got like the boiler and the pump as well. But yeah, right, I'm gonna call it a day. I don't work on a lot of ideals, mate, to be honest. A handful, like the Logics. I had one earlier that was it would squeal every now and again. So I thought, oh, it'll either be the gas valve or the burner, but the first thing we can do, or a bit of dust or something on the Venturi. So whipped it all apart, stripped it out, cleaned it out. I put it on my story on Insta earlier, and then as I put it all back together, I moved the microwave out of the way to do my 26.9s and put the gas inlet on, and I realised the gas was turned like nearly like 3/4 of the way off. So I'm in no shadow of a doubt that's what was making it squeal. When it was calling for a demand, it was undergassed. So, you know, on the plus side, they had a full strip down, and it was cleaned out. Venturi was sparkling, so, you know, it wasn't a wasted event, but, you know, we live and learn. Maybe next time I should have done better visuals. And the other thing with ideals is the hot water as well. A lot of people, when the hot water isn't very hot, people go straight for the plate. In 13 years, I've never had to change a plate on an ideal boiler. They're like bulletproof. I don't know what they put in them, but they're great. What it normally is if you whip the case off when the hot tap's on and you see like a flickering red light, like air traffic control, it'll be the flow turbine. Just get that changed, and you should be good to go. You can diagnose that by opening more than one tap, and you should get a solid red light as well. But yeah, that's about it really. Is that it? Thanks for everyone's comments. I'm glad you thought it was beneficial, and I hope it has helped. I'm going to try and save this. I'm not quite sure how to do it, but I will try, and hopefully they will keep it up. Nice one, guys. Thanks.